Welcome and thank you so much for coming this evening. This is the Mr. X Talks Careers, and this is our first ever presentation that we're going to have, first ever webinar that we're having, where all of us are able to interact with professionals in different fields, which will tell they will tell us about their experiences in life, the academic side of their situations, what they do, and inspire us to be able to make the best decisions according to what the future holds, to make sure that we avail ourselves for better positions in the future and future-proof ourselves, for lack of a better word. Thank you. My name is Kolani. That's me, and usually called Mr. X, and I'll be the co-host here. And our doctor, our first guest for this particular presentation, is here with Dr. Malvin Nkomo, and I will take it through as we begin. So here's what we're going to do. The program is going to be very simple. So I'll do the introduction of the doctor. Then once I've done the introduction, he will then take over to take his presentation. As soon as the presentation is done, then I'll open up the platform for people to ask questions. Please feel free to ask as many questions as you would probably like, so that at least we can be able to understand and know and align ourselves with the best possible way in getting the best in our lives. So I'm going to start off this particular situation by giving over to the profile. Now, who do we have today? And who are we dealing with today? I'm going to read the profile of the man that you're looking at. Okay, he's just disappeared, but it's going to come back through right now. So with us today is Dr. Malvin Nkomo. And Malvin Nkomo is an electronic engineer by training. He's an academic researcher by passion, a data scientist, and a social entrepreneur at heart. He holds a PhD in electrical and electronic engineering from the University of Johannesburg in the research area of advanced wireless sensor networks, which is WSN, and the Internet of Things, which is IoT. His research area is at the intersection of IoT and artificial intelligence, with a strong focus on machine learning and deep learning at the edge of the IoT networks. He earned an MSc in Information and Communication Engineering, specializing in robotics and embedded systems from Shandong University of Science and Technology in Shandong in China. He has vast experience in the field of embedded systems in architecturing and designing of state-of-the-art IoT solutions. He is a self-taught data scientist and IoT evangelist, and a strong proponent of leveraging disruptive technologies in various industries verticals to optimize, improve, and create more revenue streams for businesses and communities at large. Not only that, the man that we have here is also an ardent entrepreneur, having founded 2 startups, one called Halo Technologies, which is a software and engineering consulting firm focusing on end-to-end software engineering, machine learning, and artificial intelligence, as well as technology managed services targeting the South African and US markets. He also founded another company called Embedded Ingenuity, an Internet of Things and embedded systems consulting firm, which serves to augment the offerings of Halo Technology. So this is not a small man that we're talking about here. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you our electronic engineer, a holder of a PhD, Dr. Malvin Nkomo. He is based right now in the United States of America, and we appreciate his presence during the afternoon, while here in South Africa, it's almost in the evening. Thank you so much, Dr. Nkomo. Maybe just say something so that we can hear where you're coming from.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Thank you, my man. Thank you for coming through. You'll take us through. And just so you may know, this is one of my good friends with Dr. Malvin Nkomo. Take us through as we learn more. I'll mute myself, disable my video, but I'm here. After the presentation, we're going to be having questions. Please do. You can always type your questions on the chat here, or you can write them down and then lift up your hand. I'll unmute you. Then you can be able to take it up from there. Dr. Nkomo, take us through.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for the kind introduction there. I'm just gonna try and share my my screen. Okay. Can you guys give me a second?
That's okay. I can hear you.
Can you share the presentation for me?
Okay. Do you happen to have it?
I think you've got my presentation.
I have the PDF version of it. Can you send me the
That's fine. That's okay. The PDF is fine.
Okay, let me quickly sort that out.
Let me see if I can just do it. The thing is, unfortunately, I've got like too many things open here and I didn't realize. Okay, tell me if you can see it now.
Okay, I'll let you know in a bit. Nothing has come this side.
Sorry, I had funny privileges on my computer here. Zoom, okay. No, cancel. Okay, I've seen it now. I had some stringent controls over my sharing of screen, so I had to override that first.
Good. We can see it now.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I don't know what is it that you can see. Can you what are you seeing at the moment?
10 electrical, electronic engineering, and data science.
Or you're just seeing my screen only?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yes. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your inviting me to come through and just basically to share experiences as it were in the realm of electronic engineering, which is really my core. And I think with an extension of data science, which is actually the future, because I believe where we're sitting at now, we're sitting at the cusp of a new, era as a species as far as technology is concerned. And my job is somewhat really simple today because Mr. X asked me to talk about my academic journey, what I do on a day-to-day basis, and why did I choose what I do, and the pathway towards getting to do the kind of stuff that I do, and which is basically my background. I'll spend a little bit of time talking about those elements, which is maybe 5-10 minutes. Then from there, I'm actually going to go straight. Unfortunately, we don't have much time, so I'm actually just going to pick up a few key talking points that I'm going to emphasize on and try to stress. I think I was actually it was a couple of 2-3 months back when you called me, Mta, to talk about this. And at that point, the one thing that came into my mind was I wished someone spoke to me in the same way we're trying to do now, today, 25 years back, that would have changed a lot of things for me, because had that happened, I would have had a better idea of where I'm heading to, what I have at hand, and how I need to adjust myself and orient myself to be able to take on the journey that is ahead of me, So I'm going to talk about the advances in the field of electronic engineering, and I'm also just going to talk about, what is it that we can do to pose for us to strategically position ourselves for the big win, and also to be involved in the kind of disruption and the disruptive technologies that are actually driving the world crazy. 20 years ago, we never thought we could be talking to people in a very diverse way, the way we're doing now, and basically just give you a little bit of advice from myself and from, where I'm standing in terms of the experiences. And I always say it's always important to actually look ahead and look at other people, what is it that they've done, and then use that to learn, number one, from their mistakes, and number two, augment what is it that they haven't done and pick up from what they've done, and you become a better person altogether. From an academic background, I think my background really is, I think I was very much privileged because, at school, I happened to have a lot of friends that helped me steer me in the right direction. They helped me to kind of like focus and orient myself in the right way. Otherwise, I would be an accountant or something else. But it's a long story. But I studied electronic engineering as my first degree. It's a 5-year program, quite intense. You learn a lot of stuff, basics around electronics, how electronic circuits are designed. What are the design considerations? How do you actually get to move from a component up until it's a finished product? Then I got to be fortunate enough also to do a master's of electrical engineering also. And at that point, my specialty now was robotics. I was privileged enough to spend some time in China, where I did, my master's. And I was focusing mostly on robotics and embedded systems. I'll explain what embedded systems are, later, because that's what I do most of my time at the moment, and not all the time, but part of subset of what I do, and I then continued to do a PhD in electrical engineering also at University of Johannesburg under the tutelage of Professor Swarab Sina, which is one of the finest brains that we have in the country, And I then, moved over to the US, where I spent most of my time really doing research into disruptive technologies. I mean, when I talk a little bit about research is about, so at the moment, I used to laugh when this whole 5G thing came up, COVID, what people were talking about 5G and everything. I sat back and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to comment, because the complexity with which 5G signals are actually being propagated is not something that we could really be toying around and arguing about on Facebook and things like that, right? So academic research helps us to look ahead in terms of where we are now from a technological standpoint. What is it that we need to approve to play around? As is now, people are talking about 5G. I'm already working in 6G, and working on technologies that are actually going to shape the future, so we are working on things that haven't hit mainstream, technologies. These are technologies that you wouldn't actually be able to just go find, We don't just work on them, we create them, we develop them, we work in teams, a very talented pool of PhDs here that I kind of like supervise and some mentors, and really trying to bring in some of these exciting stuff. Some of the stuff I'll talk about it. Next generational Internet of Things. Software-defined radios. Leveraging machine learning, deep learning, and edge computing systems. I wish I had time. I could have gone into elaborating what all of those elements are. So what do I do? So at base, I am an electronic engineer, and I'm also a data scientist, and I'm a researcher, And what is it that I research on? I research about stuff that are happening in the electronics industry and stuff that is happening in the data science industry. I explain what data science is all about, and again, at the base of it all, really, I think at the core of me, I am an entrepreneur, because I always believe that as long as your education can be used to solve things that are affecting our communities or build and position us for a better future, you might as well just not even go to school, because if we were to be training engineers every year, year in, year out, that are always just gonna think about going to look for work, I don't want to be part of that future, because the future that I want to belong to is a future of creatives, future of people who are visionaries, future of people who want to change the status quo and even produce and create more opportunities for others that wouldn't otherwise be able to do so. I always think about this as a God-given ability and a gift that I should use to bless other people. So if I'm to be an entrepreneur and being able to create jobs, so you take one visionary, one visionary, he goes on to create jobs for 20,000 people. That we have now because they're thinking in ones and in zeros, right? So for you to actually design those elements, you design it with a schematic capture. So a schematic is basically a complicated electronic circuit arrangement, right? And the day, as I've seen in almost every electronic component or gadget that you have, there's always a circuit board in there, right? And that circuit board is consists of a couple of elements. It has got passive components like your resistors, your capacitors, your inductors, your thyristors, your IGBTs, and a whole host of other elements. And it also consists of IC, integrated circuits. An integrated circuit is actually a compressed representation of electronic circuits juxtaposed together to actually make a certain logic, whether digital or analog. So for it to, and remember, these things don't think for themselves. So for them to actually make the actions that they make, we then program them. That's why we talk about programming. We program them. For electronic components, we program them mostly using the C programming language and assemble. I wish I had more time to actually talk about all of these things. So I'm actually going to show you a typical circuit of that I design. So don't ask me what this looks like, what this is, but this is a normal day for me. Sitting, designing an electronic circuit system. So this is like a complex 8-layer board. So most of you, I'm sure you've opened up an electronic component, right? You've seen a board, whether it's green or blue or red or something, that electronic circuit board, right? That circuit board is not just board, we make them, So this is one of them, I make a couple of these. And once I've done that, I can even show the representation of it. What is it how is it going to look like? So this is all still in design phase. So when I'm done, I can actually just send it out for manufacture. So typically, these are the elements that I actually spend the whole day designing. So this is actually what an electronic engineer actually does, and the whole company, the whole industry is the people who do this are called embedded design engineers, right? So you embed technology, you embed intelligence in these chips so that they can perform certain tasks. That's why your fridge at home is an embedded system, your TV and all those are embedded systems and everything, right? But there's a part that I really want to talk about, which is really the jobs of the future. And I mean, we could have gone back and spoken about. I'm sure the whole thing about the fourth industrial revolution has always been emphasized now, and at least we're all in the clear of what that talks about or what it is. Now in 2012, the Harvard Business Review. What is the Harvard Business Review? The Harvard Business Review is basically a journal that really, publishes high-end technology. They wrote this article, which has kind of like changed the way things have been done over the past 10, 15 years. And it actually spoke about this new profession, which is a data science. It actually called the data scientist the sexiest job of the 21st century. What is a data scientist? Now, a data scientist is a person. Well, data science. Let me not even, put it in discrete form like that. Data science really deals with the a confluence of a couple of technologies, that come together to actually achieve a task that we wouldn't otherwise achieve with one discipline. For example, just give you a very classical example, Uber, right? Uber, now we're able to hail a taxi or a cab using a phone, right? But did they do anything new? No, they didn't do anything new. The phone was already there, the GPS was already there, the data was already there, the taxi drivers were already there, you were there, and what they actually touch on all of the competencies of everyone to create a service that creates a disruptive offering in the market. So, for example, now that they've got your GPS location, that know that there's someone at this point and there's someone at this point, you want to go to such as a place because you've already signified that you want to do that, then they're to look at driver, then they're to combine you, and you can actually move to other places, right? So that thing just doesn't happen from one isolated standpoint. It's a combination of a lot of technologies, right? So data science really deals about the science of merging different disciplines that that can give you desired outcomes. So we talk about machine learning, statistics, business analytics, businesses, and computer science, software engineering, and all of these elements combined together has actually created a new industry altogether that is revolutionizing how we interact with our environment and how we are even so associating with each other. Now, I'm sure most of us have got mobile devices, right? In the form of cell phones and everything. And one of the most favorite apps that we have is Insta, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp and everything, right? Now, for every like, and there's this whole thing of what, like me, like me, like me. For every like, that like is actually creating a digital representation of you in this have you ever had a situation whereby when you're talking with your friend and you're busy maybe chatting with your friend on WhatsApp and you're telling them, you know what, I'm actually planning on BMW, or is it which one, a 3 Series? Oh, is it? Okay, cool, sharp. Where can I find a good dealership? This and that. As you're talking, the moment you step into your office, open your computer and open Google, all of a sudden, boom, you start seeing adverts of cars, specifically BMWs. And you actually ask yourself, how did that actually happen? And the internet has actually created this digital nervous system. Think about the nervous system, the way your body actually functions. You've got the nervous system. So this digital nervous system has enabled to mimic and to portray every individual on the internet as if they are the only person that is on the internet, right? And by so doing, you are able then to customize offerings for them. That's why now we talk about, 15, 10 years ago, when we didn't have something called influencers. All of a sudden now, people are not big on billboards. Companies are not big on billboards. They actually prefer influencers. Why? Because an influencer could have 20,000, 20 million followers, right? Who actually passes on the N1? How many cars pass on the N1 a day? Maybe 50,000, right? So I'm better off having someone with 2 million followers advertise my brand than putting a billboard on the N1, right? So that's whole approach of actually enabling such things to happen, is leveraged through a technology called machine learning, right? Which is really a statistical way of imaging or building machine intelligence. I wish I had time to actually go through deeper and deeper into all of these things. Then there's something called deep learning, which really in the most simple and the basic form is a sophisticated neural network. So I'm throwing all of these terms and not explaining too much on them in the interest of time, And basically, this is actually what happens, So you've got machine learning, which actually uses some classification algorithms, and we've got different types of classifications. We have got different types of machine learning systems. You've got supervised machine learning, unsupervised machine learning. We've got reinforcement learning, and we use all of these to actually get a desired outcome, you know. And then to make things even more complicated and even better and improve, we actually use deep learning systems, which is really a sophisticated neural network, which involves feature extraction and classification of all of these elements. By so doing, you are able then to actually starting to understand intelligence as if it was a human, right? There's a lot of debate in the scholarly circles around where the future of AI is going and everything. I don't have much time to talk about that at the moment, you know, but it could be an interesting debate over time, you know. So the kind of academic research that I deal with, you know, I've spoken about this. I work in 6G, functional fabrics, wearable, reconfigurable intelligent surfaces. I mean, I wish I could tell you more about this thing called reconfigurable intelligent surfaces, because in the next few years, we will find ourselves in a very interesting space altogether, having to deal with all of these technology systems that are really going to change and blow our minds altogether. You know, thinking about things like millimeter wave radar, being able to actually put emotions in our digital representations. You know, Google is spearheading that kind of research. You know, and for you to be able to find yourself with these kind of capabilities, you need certain elements. Really, you can never shortchange this whole thing. You know, have you ever asked yourself, why is it that someone, you know, a doctor can come to you now, a medical doctor, right, can come to you and give you the exact instructions of operating a person, right? Say, okay, cool, take this scalpel, cut here, do this, what, and everything. Take this forceps, get this goes, suck out this, you know, but you're still not gonna be able to do that whole thing. Why? Because it's deeper than that, you know. So you need a certain level of intuition into that discipline. And for engineering, it has got the same aspects also. So you talk about maths, you know. If you really want to be an engineer, forget about maths lit. You know, I don't even know what that looks like at the moment, but forget about maths lit. You know, you need to do poor mathematics, and not just for the sake of just doing it. I mean, I always tell people that you know, maths for some of us, maths was considered assumed knowledge. You know, we never, back when I was at high school and even at college, we never used to compete in maths because it was the most, like, if you find yourself scoring 85 and below, you're in trouble. You know, the guys are like really clocking it. You know, like you're talking about the guys doing pure maths 95, 96, 97, and you know, physics. You know, I kind of overemphasize that Mr. X is the whiz in that, you know, chemistry, you know, and not just the academics, also, you need a very analytical mind. You need to ask questions that are unconventional, you know, you need to be inquisitive. You know, all of these technology inventions, they didn't come from people who were just absorbers and just, you know, absorb, then you absorb the script. They would absorb, then quiz and ask, why is a resistor behaving the way it is? Why is a Zener diode behaving the way it's behaving? What is the doping mechanism that is actually used? You know, stuff like that and everything. You know, inquisitive, and you need to be very good in programming. You know, how do you get to be good in programming? You start programming. You know, I'm a diehard basketball fan. You know, I always tell people that you know, LeBron James didn't start playing basketball at 15. He started playing basketball at 3. You know, that's why he is as good as he is. Mark Zuckerberg didn't start programming at 20. He started programming at 6. You know, so if you find yourself at this age and you're still not able to do all of those things, you know, and I can actually tell you of ways that you can actually use to improve your programming skills and, you know, stuff like that, you know. And also entrepreneurship, like Umtai Mr. X is alluded earlier on. You know, I always believe that we need to be able to build our own technologies that actually compete with the global market, because I don't understand why someone in Silicon Valley will be telling me what to do down in Johannesburg in South Africa. You know, so we build our own service, and you know, so it's a very interesting slide that I slotted in here. You know, now if you go to the Forbes list of billionaires, you know, and you check, you'll see that in that list, you know, the highest number of people that are billionaires, they're in the technology industry. You know, we can debate that, you can whatever, but numbers just don't lie. You know, the people, the things, and the elements that are changing this world is technology, right? Why? Because in the 1950s and 60s, right? I'm sure you've all heard about this place called Silicon Valley, you know, which is in California, and where most of these big tech companies are: Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, you know, all of these technology companies are, you know. But in the infancy of that area, you know, it was a peach farm, you know, and then there were three guys, you know, who formed what we call the most important company of the 21st century. You know, the most important company of the 21st century is Intel, right? And I'm gonna qualify that. You know, so there were three guys: Gordon Moore, Robert Noyce, and Andy Grove. Right? These were friends, you know, who came together and built this company called Intel. I'm sure you could see in all your computers here, right? It is always depending on which computer brand you use, but generally a higher percentage of the components that you see there, it's always written what? Intel inside, right? So they created this company called Intel, which really has kind of like revolutionized the silicon industry and has given us all of these capabilities that we wouldn't have otherwise managed to have, you know, back in the day and all, you know. And that's why we're able to carry in our pockets computing competencies that are way bigger than, you know, the technology that took men first to the moon in 1969 in Buzz Aldrin, Lance Armstrong, and Michael Collins. So we are now having to deal with an environment and an ecosystem that is technology driven, right? And numbers don't lie. I pulled out the statistic. In 2018, Africa as a whole, 53 states, 53 states, you know, as a whole in 2018, its gross domestic product was 2.33 billion, right? And if you look at the population of Africa, we're sitting at 1.2 billion plus, right? And in California only, California is a state, is not a country. There is 39.56 million in California, but the GDP in California only was 2.9 trillion. Then you ask yourself why. You know, go back to these slides. This actually explains why. All of these companies that you see here, they are all headquartered in what? In Silicon Valley, right? And all of them deal with what? With technology. So the market capitalization of these companies only, you know, is actually managed. Oh, then we didn't even include our own Elon Musk, which tops the list of all of this, you know. Um, um, uh, uh, that's why you are seeing this kind of statistic, you know. So if we are simple, if the numbers are telling us that technology is a great driver of all economies, so why are we acting as if everything else matters? You know, yes, it does matter, but we really need to pay attention to the capabilities that technology actually gives us, you know. So what are some of the advances that have come in that will help us move in the right direction, you know? Earlier on, I spoke about computing in the sense of a transistor, which is based on ones and zeros. Now, computers are going to be more advanced by leveraging what we call quantum computing. Quantum computing says that a computer cannot be limited to only ones and zeros, but it can assume more states, right? How does it actually do that? By using quantum physics. Now, quantum physics and quantum computing simply says that we can do what are called quantum entanglement, right? And superimposition of quantum elements to give us a better computing dimension, whereas we can think of an element with having 8 dimensions as opposed to not even just 8, more dimensions as opposed to ones and zeros. What does that do? It gives us more depth in our computing capabilities, you know? So because we know that this is the future, what is it that we're doing now to position ourselves for that? You know, I always laugh at people now when if we think about us as Africa, that you know, we're still worried about, you know, training people driving manual cars. Here, people drive; they don't even drive. You just get in and you tell it, "Hey, I need to go to work." The car takes you to work. Autonomous cars, you know, and they've actually been proven that they are actually way safer than you driving, 3D printing. I actually emphasize this thing because we know that 3D printing is the future. We should be investing in young people to build technologies to help propagate this technology, right? You could start a company that starts working in materials that are used in 3D printing, or you could start a company that fixes robots, because robots really can never be self-healing, in my estimation. If I'm to sit with other academics here, we could argue up until the cockroach. Then we've got advanced materials, graphene, vaccines, and nanomaterials, mobile internet, the ability for you to be able to carry such computing power in your thing, automation of knowledge work. You walk into a McDonald's here, you don't even need someone serving you. You do it yourself. Work is automated, And why am I telling you about all of these things? The reason why I'm telling you about all of these things is all of these companies that I referenced to prior, right? Your Intel, your Facebook, your Google, your Amazon, they were not built by one person, right? If you take for example, Google. Google was started by Larry Page and Sergey Brin. They were friends at school. That's why you hear people say, no, these guys were college dropout. Come on, these guys were college dropout at Stanford, right? Which is the best university in the world. Arguably one of the top 5 universities in the world. And they dropped doing a PhD in computer science and in mathematics. And when you run with the story of saying, these guys were college dropouts, I'm also going to drop out from school and start my own business. It just doesn't work like that. Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard University. Just to be admitted into Harvard University is a problem in and of itself. So if you find yourself in there, consider yourself one of the luckiest, not really luckiest deservingly, but in a very niche thing. So what I'm trying to say is, as friends, you're never gonna, this whole thing needs to come to an end of saying, I want to develop the next big thing. No, I want with my friends to develop the next big thing, because on your own, you can't do everything yourself, It's because if you go back to what data science is all about, it's about leveraging skills from different people, So the businesses that are going to survive in the future are data driven, So to build a data driven business, you can't do it on your own. You need people, you need friends, Larry Page, he had to call Sergey Brin, Bill Gates also had to get Paul Allen, the Apple guy, Steve Wozniak, had to get Steve Jobs, So it can never be a thing whereby you can build anything alone, So data-driven businesses, think about anything that has to deal with data has got an opportunity to actually give you a better edge, and capitalize on the competencies of cloud computing, And because most of people now are actually moving to the urban areas, we're starting to actually get services. We're starting to understand that that's actually an opportunity, By the year 2030, about 60% of the people are going to be staying in urban areas. That's actually a huge increase in people staying in the urban areas. Urbanization is becoming a huge problem. That's why we've got power cuts, because the country was not designed to carry the kind of capacity that it carries now, because, and of course, there's a lot of other complexities. Think about overlay services. I'll close with this part. Now, I don't know if you guys grew up in the age of Mixit. There's something called Mixit, which is like a peer-to-peer instant messaging app, right? That thing came before Facebook, came before WhatsApp. But why is WhatsApp one of the biggest companies in the world? I wish I had time to explain that. I think I'm done.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Nkomo, for that one. You know what? Maybe just end off with explaining to us Mixit. I think Mixit, I think our generation had Mixit. I remember Mixit. BlackBerry as well. BlackBerry was available.
Yeah. Research in motion.
Yeah, it was one of the first phones to have probably good instant messaging. We even sang about it, BBM. So maybe you can just close off on that. Why is it that companies such as Mixit have not made it and WhatsApp has made it? Companies such as BlackBerry have not made it, but look at Apple, look at Samsung, they have come through on all of that. And on that, then we can do the question and answer segment.
Now, if you think about a company like Mixit, really, talent is available everywhere. Everywhere, talent is available everywhere. But our opportunities are available in isolation, right? So you will find that, if a point in example is Elon Musk, if you read about the book, the Elon Musk book, and follow up his life, you will realize that Elon Musk studied like 2 kilometers from where I'm seated here, which is at UPenn, just across the road from where I'm seated right now. He grew up, he studied in this city. And if you think about a guy like Elon Musk had to rethink about where Africa. That's why the problem, it's more of an African problem, right, than anything else. We don't have enough capitalization of our businesses, as it were, compared to other companies. So if you think about John Coombe, the guy who developed WhatsApp, he used to work for Google and for Yahoo. Then he took his earnings and he started his own company with his own money. He ran with it for a couple of years. He managed to get venture capital. In Africa, if we are to build a very sustainable venture capital, what has built Silicon Valley now is the venture capital that is there. There's a book by Rice called Secrets Through to Sand Hill Road. Right, Sand Hill Road is a road in California that has got one of the world's biggest venture capitals, So those are the guys who actually managed to come up with a very good financing scheme to fund these businesses, That's why now there's a lot of brilliant young African kids with brilliant ideas, but the system and the capacitation of it is lacking, to a point that if you are to look at Mixit, right? Mixit happened just before time, computers, phones were not as ubiquitous as it were here in Africa than they were already in the rest of the world, So effectively, you start getting to a point where technology is also a function of timing, right? You can come up with a breakthrough technology, but the timing is wrong, that's going to go down, And you think about companies like Research in Motion that did BlackBerry. BlackBerry was purely a thing of not understanding the whole process of actually building, open source systems, and they got outsmarted by the guys like Google. When they bought the Android operating system, which they took in and then they gave it to everyone and said, guys, develop this whole thing. Again, the principle that I was talking about, you don't hoard knowledge, you liberalize knowledge. When you liberalize knowledge, you are able then to get more computing, more capacity. Like, I'm better off having 1,000 people solving my problem than one person solving my problem. So that's actually what open source is all about. Simply say, guys, here is code, cool. Just go, find some problems with it. So all of a sudden, you've got this huge ecosystem, and projects here are well funded, way better than you would find anywhere else in the world. So positioning and talent are two things that need to happen at the same time. Right. Okay. In Africa, there's talent. I'll end there.
All right. Thank you so much for that one, Dr. Nkomo. Okay, now the purpose of this particular presentation and all the presentations that are to come, we have the demographics of young people here, which are matriculants, maybe some in grade 10, some in grade 11, others post-matriculants who may even think of changing careers and trying to align themselves into something quite relevant. As you have put it across, that at the bedrock of future jobs, future employment, future contributions to the economy lies technology, of which you are doing that. You're an integral part of that. Now, I'm going to open up the platform where people are able now to ask as many questions as is possible. Dr. Nkomo is very willing to answer your questions as you have heard. And I like what you talked about in terms of inspiring while I wait for the questions. It's quite simple. You just lift up your hand. I'll be able to see you. Then I will unmute you. You go ahead, you speak and say your question or your comment, or whatever the case could be. Then we take it up from there. Let's give it a good 5 to 7 minutes of interaction where we're going to be asking questions as to what we need to know, not necessarily even about what Dr. Nkomo has talked about in terms of his career, but the overall idea of what it means as a young person in South Africa, as a young person in the entire world, saying to themselves, I'm 18, I'm 17, 10 years to come, I'll be 27, I'll be 28. How would I like to picture my life? Where would I like to see myself going? What do I want to do? Which are the courses that will help me? And what do I need to align myself with? All right. So you can just lift up your hand. And I think one of the questions that, one of the comments that came through, I just want to read something here that came through from someone here. And they were saying, true, it was a comment from Anthony when he was saying, true, we have a few guys that have invented machines, but have been let down by African governments. And I think that's quite a very sad thing to talk about from that perspective. But let me hear what someone else says. Okamkhelo says, question, how did you go about to apply to international schools, and how can one apply for scholarships and bursaries? I think that's a very critical piece of information or question, because we're looking at the background of the fact that college is expensive. You said you went to China, right? That's where you did your master's degree. Now you are stationed in the United States of America as well. So how does that whole funding situation go? If you know any particular information about that, let me give you an opportunity to take us through.
You know, there's one misconception around funding, you know, which is always premised by the whole thing whereby people need to apply. I've never applied for any scholarship, you know. I mean, but the bulk of everything else that I've done has been an effort of networking, being visible in the community that you actually exist, you know, which for me is in the technology space, you know, attending conferences, sharing passionately about some of these things that you actually learn. You know, there's this whole thing of hoarding information, because I know this, then I'm not going to share with people, you know. And I remember when I actually went to China, it was actually a thing whereby, you know, I was talking to a friend of mine who was already there, and it was like, hey, you know what, we're looking for, you know, some more students who are actually going to be able to come and do this program, this and that. But what I spoke to a couple of guys there, and at that time, you know, you remember, Mr. X will remember it very well. I was already an engineer working in industry with a good salary and everything, right? But I knew that I'm far from done, right? I quit my job, well-paying engineering job in Johannesburg, and I went back to being a student, you know. And I can tell you right now, I will never regret that opportunity. You know, I remember talking to one of my friends, and I'm like, you know what? I'm actually now your supervisor, supervising you on your master's project, you know, but we're at school together, right? The reason why I was sharing that with him was the whole idea of saying, look, opportunities come to all of us in different forms. You know, some of us, our opportunities are as far as, you know, reaching out to other people in different communities. Most people always looking for opportunities that exist, you know. Just go on the internet, you know, write an unsolicited email to a company. You know, have you ever seen the energy that boys have, Mabeshela, right? It's the same energy that we should have. It's the same energy that you should have when you're pursuing a woman. Should be the same energy that you should have when we're pursuing our careers, you know. Because have you ever seen a young man when he wants to get married? You know, he will raise any form of money to get married. But the very same person is never going to raise money to start his own business. Why is it that every young person can raise money to get married, but that same person can never raise money to start their own business? Fundamentally, there's something wrong with that whole approach and thinking, you know. That's why people always think that, you know, personally, I didn't achieve all of these things because I was given as handouts, you know. It took sacrifices on my end. I left my high-paying job and became a student. Was it easy? Not the experience that I want to do again, you know. So from undergrad, masters, and up to where I am, if I had time to tell you about all of those experiences, you realize that nothing is a given. Everything had to be earned. and sacrifices that I've had to make. I left Uncle Shuang in South Africa. They didn't chase me away. I had, my whole life there, and I could be employed anyway, but I had to choose to come here and start something that I believe is part of the future. Can we do that in Africa? Of course, we can do it in Africa, right? Can I do it at a more accelerated pace here? Definitely, yes. So some of these universities, I mean, if I can tell you how I even got to interact with people here, I just went on to the internet, started emailing, people that I don't even know, tell them your story. Just think about how you approach a woman as a guy, Malvin. Use the same energy, same intelligence, same approach. I can tell you, you will take one down.
Thank you so much for that one. So I think what we're learning again here is what is key is the idea of resilience and decision making and consistency as well. And I think this is something that every young person must have: consistency, resilience, and proper decision making. You started off and opened up, and I'm going to give over to Professor K. Input today. You started off with the idea that when you wish you had known what you know now, you wish someone had set you down like what we're doing right now for these many students for free. You wish this information that you have now, you had back then. And I think let's take a moment to appreciate the beauty of the fact that you are here and we're starting something as beautiful as this. To say to the world in South Africa as well, this is your opportunity as a young person, an opportunity to work hard, an opportunity to decide, an opportunity to do good by yourself, an opportunity to be resilient, an opportunity that you have to extremely live your life to the fullest. And you've given us the idea that you were working extremely hard and getting a beautiful salary, and you left the options that you have. Now you're in one of the biggest countries in the entire world, and you're still moving up and up the ladders. And that's quite inspiring. I want to give over to Professor Kane Puti. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that okay. And then I will also be able to read a couple of questions as we're gliding towards the end of our particular first time of presentation. Prof, please take us through.
Good evening, sir and Prof. I just wanted to ask a question because you actually motivated me also to also pursue a career in engineering. But my intention is actually to study medicine. So I thought, like, let me just combine both medicine and engineering so that I can create things like your robotic arms and so on for surgery. But I would like to know that, because also, like with me, I would like to pursue a PhD. But I wanted to know what kept you motivated whilst you were busy doing your PhD.
All right. Thank you so much, Prof. K. Mputi. I love that. And I think the future is bright. I love the name because they're saying, listen, I'm going to be a professor in the near future to come. So his idea, his question, I'm hoping you heard this. He wants to pretty much combine the medical field and the electronic engineering field so that he can be also part of the equipment that happens or that is used in the medical industry, like for example, robotic arms or whatever the case could be. But part of his question is, what kept you motivated while you're doing your PhD? Not just your PhD. And I think you forgot to tell them that you did your master's in record time in China. How long are you supposed to take to finish?
No, 2 years.
How long did you take?
1 year.
1 year. Half
11
the time.
months, actually. Yeah.
It was what?
Yeah.
A couple of months.
11 months, actually.
11 months. Okay. 11 months
yeah.
when you're supposed to do it in 2 years. So what keeps you motivated? What kept you motivated? What can you say that can keep these young people and everybody else watching right now motivated as to, listen, I've done it. I'm a black man. And you're a proper black man. We can see it from this side here. Proper black man. And what is a black child doing in the biggest country in the whole entire world? In California, in Silicon Valley. I've seen you going to Harvard. I think you're doing more for Harvard, and you're probably going to be going to the big universities that you're going to. What keeps you motivated? Tell us more.
I think for me, what really keeps me motivated is hunger. I've got an insatiable appetite to learn. I think not just from the academic space also, but in life in general, and always immersing myself and put it, because I always think to myself, you know, why is it that certain people can achieve certain things? Because you know, we're always glued to the TV, you know, and we see some of these unbelievable things that are somewhat, you know, seemingly unfathomable or difficult to achieve and everything, you know. I remember I was actually seated with my brother. The year was 2009. I just finished my first degree, and we were watching this program, Mega Structures, on National Geographic. And my brother was like, "Yo, how does someone actually have the energy and the brains and the complexities of getting a PhD in civil engineering and doing all of these crazy structures, you know?" And I didn't have an answer then. I was like so intrigued by that whole idea. And I'm like, so you can actually achieve these things, you know? And I can tell you right now, it was actually on that day in 2009, I was sitting with my brother watching National Geographic. And I said, you know what, I'm actually going to do it. You know, I don't think it. So, and my brother actually said to me, you know, I know, I mean, all of the guys in your class are all of you guys are gonna pass, you're gonna get good jobs and everything, right? But one thing that you need to make sure that you do is that you don't just pass, you must excel, you know? Because in every class, there's always a normal distribution. There's a huge chunk of people who are average, you know, and then they are the extraordinary. You know, you always want to put yourself to be the extraordinary one, right? Not on a competitive scale, but in terms of drive, energy, and the pursuit of greatness. And at the base of it is basically hunger. You know, you gotta be hungry. You know, stay hungry. And in the words of Steve Jobs, stay hungry and stay foolish. You know, hunger actually drives hunger in everything. We come from very, very poor backgrounds, like very poor backgrounds, but those backgrounds were never meant to be the terminal end for all of us. You know, they were just there to help us understand our position and then launch ourselves from there going forward. Back to the question about medicine and thingy. Again, I'll try to emphasize this whole thing. You just don't need everything. You know, you need to, you know, I can tell you right now, Larry Page, you know, I mean, Sergey Brin, right, was good in computer science, you know. Larry Page was a good in mathematics, you know. This guy was like a wizard. He came up with this algorithm called the PageRank algorithm, which is what we use in the World Wide Web, you know. So he leveraged his skill. He took his skill. He didn't have to learn everything else in computer science, you know. That's why, you know, out of this group of all the people that are here who are hungry, the way you are hungry, you know, you should be friends with each other. You know, understand that Millicent, Vincent, and Dineo, right? Millicent's strength is in biology, right? Vincent is good in maths. Dineo is actually good in mechanical engineering. This can actually come and form a formidable team which can actually build the next big robot, you know. But if you want to do it yourself, you're going to spend 47 years at school. By that time, a young 15-year-old is going to be outsmarting you. You don't have to do everything yourself. Stay in your lane. That's why I spoke about social capital. You know, social capital is like really important. Social capital is not just presence on the social media. It means that your friends around you should augment your skill sets. You know, if you're friends with engineers only, then you're actually with the wrong friends. Some of your friends must be architects, some must be doctors, medical doctors, some must be engineers, some must be lawyers, some must be accountants, some must just be clever. You know, there are those people who are just clever in life, like they can talk. You know, like I've got a friend of mine, Mr. X. The guy can talk. I can always send him to Mr. X in, like he can talk, you know, like some guys just need to be clever. They need to be there to make things happen. You know, we call them the rainmakers. You know, so the idea of in the world that we're going in, it's not one atom that's going to survive. It's atoms. It's people coming together. You know, that's why we are in this huge nervous system. You know, that is this huge digital nervous system. So we can't, like I can tell you right now, by the time you finish a medical degree, 7, 8 years, then from there you start engineering, right? By the time you finish your engineering degree, that's 12 years, right? By that time, you are so outdated. You are not relevant. You know, the rate at which technology is moving, you are not relevant, you know? So it's all about finding guys who are good at those things, you know? I always say to people, it's actually, do you know how much percentage stake of Facebook Mark Zuckerberg owns? You know, I think it's about 7%, but he's still a billionaire, you know? So you don't have to own 100% of 75 rand. You need to own 1% of 10 billion or 10 trillion. You see, that's the mindset. Everyone has to eat. You can't eat alone. Everyone has to eat. You know, if you eat alone, you know, your friends next to you are going to be thieves. They will steal from you. So just make sure everyone is rich, you know. So feed the family principle in the sense that everyone around you just has to make it. You can't be the only one in your circle and in your friends who is making it. No, it just can't. It just doesn't happen that way, you know. So always form friendships, you know. The very same, you know, I always tell people that I have never seen people who are as united as people who drink alcohol. Those guys are my motivation, you know, because today, if I don't have money for alcohol, you know, that's why they meet every weekend to vibe and to kokota piano, whatever they can. Meet every weekend with your friends, with your peers, to discuss the next big thing. You know, it's not going to take 2 years. It's not going to take 5 years. It could take 10 years. But when it happens, I can tell you right now, it will be a flood.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Nkomo, for that one. Such potent points that you just put across for all of us to learn and to understand. You've given the idea of the importance of friends in a young person's life. If your friends are all about amapiano, all about the latest fashion, all about this and that, maybe you need to rethink things along those lines to say, okay, maybe show me a man. My mother will always say, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. Right. So I think it's important to keep a very good set of friends who are very inspiring. If your friends like school, you will automatically like school. If it's all about Heineken and Hennessy and all this and Moet and all those kind of things, then that's what you guys talk about. So it's important to keep a good circle of friends and then get a variety of friends, as it were. As a student, as you're studying, as a student in your school setting, find people that are interested in what you're interested in. If it's maths, and I'll tell you this, Dr. Nkomo can attest to all of this with his friends as well. I think, you know, at school, there was that healthy competition that people had within themselves. That inspires people. You said also as well, it's important not to pass. That's just a normal distribution. It's important to excel, which means, therefore, every one of us must get to a point where they are at a pedestal higher than what the normal peers are. Passing will not get you anywhere. That's what we're learning from here. You need to excel, be very good at what you do, be resilient, do not give up, go ahead and do all that. And this is a presentation that has been done and told to us. Let me just read one more or two more questions here. And then after this, maybe we can just have the closing remarks to what we are doing here. So Robin says, as a person who wants to study astrophysics, is this a good career choice in terms of employment, especially in South Africa? Maybe note that one there. Seila says, Dr. Nkomo, I would like to know what exactly it is within the technological field that it is that you do and all that. Then someone says, as a youngster who wants to see herself in the civil engineering industry, am I in the right place to choose this? Will I have employment benefit 10 years to come? Maybe just note those 3 questions as we glide towards the end. Then Mohammed says, is making money the main goal of life to live? I think you will answer that as one of your last ones. You left a lucrative job here and you went to school. I think we can't underestimate the importance of passion and love for what you do. That one must definitely come first. You would tell them that probably you were studying in the middle of the night, you barely slept, sleeping was a luxury to you. all this because it was passionate things that you were doing. All right, maybe take us through those last parts as we go through the deliverables here on all of that. Then I'll give the announcements and what's happening next week and all that as we start off the Mr. X Talks Careers with Dr. Malvin Nkomo, an electronic and electrical engineer based in the United States of America. I'm guessing it's about 2:09 in the afternoon right there. Go ahead, take us through.
You guys raise important questions, and like I said, I really wish someone had these conversations with me 25 years ago, because I was maybe around that age, and these questions are very important. I don't know most of you if you've had a job before, but I can talk to those that have had jobs before. There's this notion of, number one, I'll tell you about the first class of people. There are people who are happy at work when their bosses are not around. Number two, there are people who wake up just to go to work 8 to 5 o'clock in and out. Number three, there are people who love what they do, right? Number four, there are people who are professional prostitutes who just go for the biggest offer in the market, right? Number five, then there are the happy people, Now, and this is not anyway, I don't have the statistics of this, but I've got a mental representation of this based on my experiences and everything, right? If you find yourself doing a job that you don't like, you are shooting yourself in the foot, right? What is the job that you don't like? A job whereby you don't feel motivated to wake up in the morning to go and do. Number two, a job where you are happy when your boss is not there. Number three, a job where you have to be monitored, because personally, all the stuff that I've had done, no one is literally micromanaging me. I sit, architect it myself, figure it out, get stuck, make phone calls, research on the internet, try it again, fail, try it again. I keep going, until at such a time something comes out of it, right? So this whole idea of always wanting to think, our parents only told us about one truth, which was go to school, get education, get a job. I don't think that still holds in this environment, because if you're just thinking about, is this field going to have work in the next 10 years? A lot of things can change. Civil engineering is a very complex and a dynamic thing altogether. Talk about 3D printing. I can tell you right now, there's a team of engineers based in Amsterdam, right, led by a guy called Loris Yamen. They're building 3D technology to print bridges in steel. So what happens to all the structural engineers who actually need to be physically there? They all have lost their jobs because a printer can print in steel a bridge. You get my point? So to position yourself based on one career is limiting, right? Everything else going forward is going to be driven by one single currency, which is data. Data now has been proven, in numbers to be actually way more valuable than oil. Oil was the standard, Oil is no longer the most coveted, commodity. It's data. That's why everyone is asking, like me on Instagram, like me on this and that and everything, right? So we are really moving over to a different landscape altogether that's driven by technology. What baffles me in all of this is 72 years back, you're actually looking at close to for 62, if not 72 years, right? From the first time a transistor was made, and in Africa, we still don't have any place where we manufacture transistors, or manufacture silicon. It actually goes to show that we have actually sat at the back of the pack. That's why most of the things to us are reactionary. You hardly hear that something. That's why you find that a company like WhatsApp can actually propagate faster than a thingy like than Mixit, you know. So it's a top-down approach. It's easy to move from the US coming down and than to do it from the other side. Not that you won't make it, you will, but what I'm trying to say is there is a lot of systemic injustices in the system that are actually pushing people behind, but those are not the end, you know, they are part of the process, you know. It could be that you could design a blockchain system that can stop all this corruption in South Africa, you know, but I'm sure they would shut down the servers and make sure there's no electricity to power the servers that control the blockchain, you know. But it's a story for another day. Yeah. I don't know if I missed another question.
I think you pretty much answered almost everything right there. I'll relook in some of the questions, but I think one thing that came through right now is the material that you said can make them better programmers. Dr. Nkomo said he will share.
Yes. Let me talk about that. You know, your mobile devices, these things. Now, these mobile devices, I can tell you right now, hey, some of you are carrying devices that are actually more powerful than the computers that your parents are using at work. You know, like in your phone. Like, for example, iPhone 13, iPhone 14, iPhone 13 only. It's what? It's a 4-core engine, you know, ARM core processor. That's like really massive, you know. And with the iPhone, like we've got all of these phones. So these phones, you can actually download. I've got one of my favorite apps here on my phone is the Coursera app and the Data Camp, you know, this app called Data Camp. You can do machine learning courses in there. You can do, programming lessons in there. There's Coursera also, you know. And these things, I can tell you, some of these courses, I just do them in. You know, at that time, that time at 2 a.m. and you can't sleep anymore, you know. Pull out your phone. Instead of just going through on Instagram and liking people's nonsense, you know, just start a course online and everything. I can tell you right now, in the past 6 years, I have done close to 57 Coursera courses. I was actually looking at it that day and I'm like, you know what? I've covered 57 courses on Coursera, you know, and these have got nothing to do with my main line of day-to-day stuff. You know, these are stuff, you know, I remember one of my favorite courses was computational neuroscience, you know, where we're actually learning about how the nervous system of a human being can actually be modeled in mathematical terms. You know, one of the courses that I actually enjoyed. I actually took a course in psychology. You know, I took a course in strategy in the art of negotiation. You know, like how do you actually negotiate? There's a lot of good people who actually do good stuff there, but they can't talk for themselves. That's why you will see that someone could be a hit now, you know, and all of a sudden the guy just disappears. Why? He failed to negotiate their way into thingy. The one thing that I'm actually gonna talk about in closing is, now, I'm an engineer, right? Growing up, engineers tend to be very snobbish. It's a very terrible characteristic of engineers, very snobbish, because we think that everything starts and ends with them. We are the thing, you know, like they want to think that we're the citadel of everything else that exists, right? But I'll tell you one thing where we're actually wrong in most cases, right? Now, that's why we always talk about STEM. We talk about, like, all of a sudden, hey, what's the most important thing to do? No, you should be teaching kids STEM and everything. I don't think it's all about STEM. It's about STEAM. You know, STEM means science, technology, engineering, maths, right? I think we need to involve arts. You know, we need to have socially intelligent people who will be able to understand the societies. Out of that kind of studies they do, we are able to then develop technologies to solve those problems, you know. So if you find yourself, you know, you will find that I'll tell you about one of the most successful programs in South Africa and who actually developed it. I'm sure you guys know about the Discovery program, you know, like, you know, the Discovery Vitality program. That thing was not developed by engineers. It was developed by psychologists. They studied human behavior, right? Then they went out to engineers and told them, do A, B, C, and D. We have proved that this is how the psychology, people want a reward system. People want to feel like they benefit. But at the end of the day, it's the engineers who did it, right? but who actually was the brainchild? The brainchild were the psychologist. Your friends need to be psychologists. Your friends need to be in the arts. Why? Because in the arts, I can tell you right now, one of the biggest things that is actually happening in the arts is something called NFT, non-fungible tokens. The ability to digitize art. You know, you're actually taking arts and putting them in what is called the blockchain and making sure that it's immutable. It can be exchanged without anyone interfering with them. You know, like people are not going to mess up with your records and, you know, stuff like that. That's why you see in Yuval, Beria, what people are just selling those CDs and everything. How do you stop that? Things like non-fungible tokens coming in and address those kind of problems, you know. But what are they solving? You're an engineer solving someone who is doing something in the arts, you know. So you need to involve your friends, you know, like literally do this one thing. In your circle of friends, you must have a guy who is in the arts, a guy who is a psychologist, a guy who is an engineer, a guy who is an architect. Like have all friends. Out of all of those friends, that's what you're going to use to build the next big thing. If you just sit there only as engineers thinking you're the coolest, excuse my English shit, I can tell you right now, it's just not going to happen. You will just continue arguing about abstract stuff. I know engineers, I'm one. We enjoy those kind of discussions. They are fruitless. I can tell you that now the most important thing is solving a real problem. That's where the money lies, you know. What keeps me motivated? Is it money? No, it's not money, but I need money. Yes, but money does motivate. Like, have you ever argued with your person in Mauritius or Dubai and everything? It's money that enables those kind of interactions, you know. So we can't sit here and act as if money doesn't matter. Money does matter. It solves problems. Even the Bible says so. If you follow the Bible.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nkomo, for that one. I think this rounds up our conversation and our presentation. One of the questions that's being asked is, will the presentation be, is it being recorded? Answer is yes, it is being recorded. I will upload it on my YouTube channel, which goes by the name Mr. X Mathematics and Physical Science, grade 12. I will also type it here as well, Mr. X Mathematics and Physical Science, grade 12. Now, thank you so much for this. And I think people pay for this information. I think if you have been to conferences, you will know that you pay to get to hear this information that you've just laid onto us. Not just small monies, but huge monies. Companies have a budget for these workshops. And here we are doing them all for you for free. All thanks to people that are my friends, like you said, Dr. Nkomo, that is here, and others that we'll be inviting as we go along. So we thank you so much for the opportunity that you've afforded us to tap into your massive, marvelous brain, your intelligent brain, and to get to understand more and more about what we need to do as we prepare ourselves for the future that is to come. Somebody asked and said, how long does it take to become a data scientist? While you think about that, I want to quickly make an announcement about what's happening next week. Now, these talks will continue. So they will continue, and we're having one again next week, Wednesday. So Dr. Nkomo says, in your circle, you must have all types of people, and there's an engineer. And then this one coming next week is an advocate. His name is Advocate Ashley Circle. That's the one that's coming up next week. An accomplished young man who's going to be taking us through his journey and his academic journey as a young person and what he does and the big, huge companies that he works for. And you will check it out also on my socials. I'll post this out as on my Instagram page as well, so that people can be able to pull through. I'll put my handle. The handle is quite simple. It's Mr. X Maths Science. Mr. X Maths Science. I'll put this also on my Instagram page, and also you'll be able to read his profile as well as the profile of Dr. Nkomo right here. Obviously, people will be able to ask and want to know more about your contacts. Please do contact me, then I'll talk to him and see what we can do to take it up from there. I think the honest truth is it's an issue of working extremely hard, being very focused, and being very versatile and able to be flexible enough to change. That point about structural engineers hit me, to say that someone spends their whole 5, 6, has a PhD in structural engineering, only for a guy in technology to build up a 3D printer and says no more need for structural engineers. We can now build this up using a machine, job gone. Remember during the time of, before the drones, you'd have, when you're filming, you'd have the helicopter pilot, then you'd have the cameraman right there at the top. 2 jobs eliminated within almost 5-6 years ago. No more need for the pilot, no more need for the cameraman. We now have a drone flying as far as it can do and all that. So technology is the bedrock of everything. So join us next week again as we pull along. Now, because I am Mr. X, I need to promote what I'm doing here, and this is what I am doing. So starting from the beginning of November, I'll be doing serious, massive revision programs that I'm going to be doing. 3 days of mathematics. I'm into education, so I teach mathematics and physical science for grade 12s. So we're going to be having a massive revision program. And with me, you don't pass, you excel. So most of my students I hear that came through and they know how we roll. 8 hours a day for 3 days for each subject, tackling of high flyer questions, focus on questions with a lot of marks, focus on the most challenging topics, time management in an exam, intense assessments as we prepare to make you an electronic engineer, make you an advocate, make you the world's next biggest thing. And it starts right there. So contact me on my numbers, 073-974-8498, for you to be able to get the information that we need. And space is running out. I can only take about 200 people. And once that comes through, I will close everything. I'll give you the details of everything if you contact me. Otherwise, thank you so much. Much appreciated to everyone that came onto the platform. This conversation has been recorded and will be uploaded. Dr. Nkomo, siyabonga. Siyabonga Matuna, siyabonga.
Thanks so much.
May God bless you
all the best.
and may He keep you. And thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And it's a good night from our side here. Take care. See each other next week, 7 o'clock, starting off with Advocate Ashley Circle. And I'll put my numbers here just quickly so that anyone who may need to contact is able to do that. 073-974 8498. I'll also put my Instagram handle, which is Mr. X Maths Science, right there, and my YouTube channel, Mr. X Mathematics, all right, and Physical Sciences, grade 12. All right, I think everyone is grateful. Dr. Nkomo, they're saying thank you so much, and I think that's good because everything is for free right now. So thank you so much and God bless you. Let's have a good night. We'll touch base soon enough. Take care. I'm closing.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye.
Sure.